Hello, my friends. This is a common occurrence in China, a sort of rural pop-up tea market. Farmers come from the villages and bring the tea they produced. They basically gather some tea in their front yard, prepare a bag full, and bring it here to sell. Only a few farmers produce the tea. Most of them just sell fresh leaves. But here, as we can see, some of them sell the final product too. It's not even a tea market, just a roadside market. It's the tea harvesting season, so any free space in town can be spontaneously occupied by a street tea vendor, eager to sell their product. We've arrived at a tea factory in Menghai. Menghai is one of the main places of Shu Puer production. They produce other varieties too, but this is the place where they started the mass production of Shu Puer. So we asked one of the manufacturers to show us how wo-dui is done. It was a bit of a challenge to find anyone who's doing it now. Usually wo-dui is done later, around May, but eventually we managed to find a factory and we'll take a tour around it now. Right now the masters are stirring up the pile. It's tea that's already gone through the complete wo-dui process. They mix the pile over and over multiple times so it can fully dry out. In the pile you can spot some naturally formed lumps. They're called tea heads. Cha-tu. They look quite good. Just now, a few technologists from various factories praised the quality of these tea heads to the managing director. The tea heads were pressed really well because the temperature of wo-dui was well chosen. It was pointed out to me, and rightfully so, that the major factor in wo-dui is the temperature control. The temperature must always be monitored so it isn't too high or too low. A master constantly checks with a thermometer whether the fermentation is going well on all sides of the pile. I have to say, if you stick your hand into the pile, you can even get burnt. Feels like as high as 80 degrees centigrade in there, so you can legitimately burn yourself. On the surface, it's more like 50-60 degrees at the most. The supervisor just measured the temperature. It turned out to be lower. It felt higher for my unaccustomed hand, but it's really just 53-55 degrees. The pile was formed just yesterday, so the temperature is not that high yet. Later it gradually rises. They use hay forks to mix the pile, and shovels too. They mix the pile very carefully, and at the same time monitor the temperature to make sure the tea dries well. They don't use any machines. It's all done by hand. A lot depends on the skill and experience of a single worker, even the simplest labourer. The first stage of the wo-dui process lasts for about 10 days. Then they uncover the pile, split it, stir it up properly. They don't add any more water at this stage. Then they assemble it back together and cover it up again. They repeat this cycle about 5 or 6 times in total. The complete wo-dui process can take up to 40 days. After that they mix the pile really well and let it dry naturally. They don't use any machines, the tea dries naturally. When the pile is dried, Shu Puer is ready for manual processing. They have to sort it. First they run it through a sorting machine. and then finish manually for it to become ideal. First things first, we've got to have some tea. I'd like to humbly share my skills and show you my understanding of some nuances of the Shu Puer production. In my opinion, the Guangdong province first had the grounds to discover and research Shu Puer. The research in Guangdong had not yet found any success. When Menghai took over the research and immediately began production. Later they did some tests in Simao and Lingang, and after careful consideration and comparative analysis, they decided to make Shu Puer here in Menghai. I think tea from the local gardens, local water, weather and other conditions all allow us to conduct the fermentation process in the best possible way. Therefore, eventually they decided to produce it here. The Menghai tea didn't become so popular thanks to Laobanjiang, which is a very famous place. Laobanjiang has been there for many years, but only recently it has become popular among tea lovers. First of all, Menghai is known for Shu Puer. Menghai is the birthplace of Shu Puer manufacturing technology. Gongyi, art, mastery, and technology. Regardless if it's a small factory such as ours or a large plant, everywhere here it's already an elaborate, well-developed technology. Firstly, because the Shifu, the tea technologists, all have extensive experience. Second, the workers are also highly qualified and experienced, because they often change their place of work and gain more experience that way. These workers first worked for you, then they come and work for me. They communicate, share knowledge, and train each other. Nothing comes close to the kind of foundation we have here. We meticulously analyze such a prominent market player as the Meng factory. They make high-quality tea. But if you compare the taste and the aftertaste, kugan, of their tea and Menghai tea, it would be very different. If you come here to make tea, make sure to take one room for fa-jiao, fermentation. It's also called a fermentation workshop. And in any case, the quality will be better than if you do it on your own. We only produce Shu Puer, and every company, especially one that has to see it through till the end product, relies primarily on their skill, gongyi. Raw material is essential for Sheng Puer. And of course the nuances of production are important too. When it comes to Shu Puer, the technological process is crucial. We need long-term research, technology development. We need to seek and try very carefully and soulfully and gradually gain experience. It takes a lot of time. But the attitude towards these aspects is the essential determining factor of a tea company's success. The kind of Shu Puer here, only we can produce such taste, because we have the technology. If you have no experience, then you still have a lot of work to do. It's better to use the prepared raw material from the pile and choose it very carefully. It's not a bad option either. And when all the conditions are met, you can rent a fermentation workshop here and do fa-jiao, fermentation yourself. Try to gain experience and research about the nuances of production. That will be a good start.